I'm telling you, there's a magic in 3. So if you leave a meeting and you've identified 3 things you can do for this person, sometimes it's sending them a book, sometimes it's making a connection for them. There's all kinds of things. You're going to be amazed at the speed to trust, right? People are going to be like, wow, that guy really goes above and beyond. And that's going to start. And if you do that there, then do it in the next place, and then do it in the next place. And next thing you know, you're going to see a change in your meetings. You're going to see people, really, really start to appreciate you. And that'll be a game changer for your business.
Welcome to Spaghetti on the Wall, where we throw ideas, see what sticks, and nurture those that do. I'm your host, Armando, an actor, entrepreneur, and coach, giving you insights that light up your world. We're here to explore the realms of business, marketing, and life, serving up a shot of inspiration with every episode. Ready to make ideas stick and grow them into something great? Let's dive in. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on when you are consuming this podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, Spaghetti on the Wall, back with another one. Jonathan Kaiser is in the house. If I had one of those buttons, I'd press it. But we had an opportunity to meet at 8-Figure Firm. You've got an amazingly successful commercial real estate brokerage over there in Arizona. It's one of the largest independent firms in the country. Mm-hmm. And he's written a book. He's a keynote speaker. And so I wanted to really get into your head today about just entrepreneurship, growth, how you were able to grow the business. What are some really amazing takeaways that entrepreneurs can take with them, aha moments, epiphanies, those things. So just give me a 2-minute backstory on how you learned all this stuff and how you got to where you are today.
Sure. Well, first of all, it's an honor to be on. I appreciate the work that you do in the world, and I'm excited for what we could do together. You're one of the bright lights leading with, I think, messages that the world needs to hear. So I'm blessed to be on. So my backstory is a little unique. I was actually raised a Christian missionary kid in Papua New Guinea. My parents taught me to love and serve and give and help and pay it forward and all those good words that we all aspire towards when we teach our kids. And when we came back from Papua New Guinea, I had this uncomfortable insight, and that was that we were poor. And so I associated being poor with how my parents had raised me. I associated being poor with giving and serving and helping. And so I remember I'm 11 years old. I'm in a little trailer down by a wash in New Mexico, looking up into my trailer bathroom mirror saying, I'm going to be rich someday. And I didn't know what it meant. But I sort of stumbled into commercial real estate because a buddy of mine said I could be successful doing it. And as I got in, I realized really quickly, wow, this is a cutthroat, take no prisoners, dog eat dog, every man for himself kind of industry. So again, I did it. I became that way because I thought that's what it took to get ahead. And I still had this thought in my mind that how my parents had raised me was wrong. But I was miserable, right? So being raised that way and then behaving as a shark and ruthless and cutthroat, you weren't actually happy inside, but I felt like I needed to do that to get ahead. And then 20-some years ago, I went to a conference and the speaker gets up and starts talking about a different way of doing business, a way of succeeding by helping others succeed. And I was moved and inspired. I'd never heard anything like it. And it sounded like my dad. And I went up to him afterwards and I said, hey, how does that actually work? And can you actually be successful by helping people? And he equated it to the difference between hunting and farming. He said, Jonathan, today you're a hunter. You go out every day, you get a piece of business, you close the piece of business, and then you got to go recreate that over and over and over again to stay ahead of the game. He's like, what I'm describing is farming, where you invest in people, you invest in relationships, and you worry about how much you can help them, and over time, it comes back to you. And I thought, it seems rational, that seems very logical, and it seemed like something that I would enjoy doing so much more. So long story short, decided to reinvent myself. Everybody thought I was crazy. One of the things that I asked the speaker when he was up there and I was talking to him after the speech is I said, if this is such a great way of success, like, how come I've never heard of this? Like, why is this the first time I've ever heard of this strategy? And he said, because it takes too long for most people. And I'm like, well, how long is too long? He said, it'll take you about 5 years to reinvent yourself, to plant enough seeds where you're actually starting to harvest. And, so me, the overachiever, I'm thinking, well, if it takes most people 5 years, it'll take me a year and a half. But sure enough, it took me all of 5 years. But in the process, right, everybody sort of, here I was, National Rookie of the Year for Grubb and Ellis, out of Arizona, which is kind of unheard of because Arizona is not, at that time, now it is today, but at the time, competing with New York or San Francisco or Chicago. And then all of a sudden I'm out in the community asking everybody, how can I help you? And I don't seem to be doing any kind of, cold calling or marketing. I'm just helping. And so it took me about 5 years. I went broke in the process. Everybody kind of lost faith in me. People thought I hit my head. Even my wife was like, hey, Jonathan, you're really smart. And obviously you work really hard. But, have you looked at our bank account lately? Have you seen the balance? I'm like, trust me, I'm up to something. This is going to work. It was just, for me, it was either I'm super stubborn, super committed, or both. I was just, I was, if this was even a possibility and I didn't have to be that sort of used car salesman, excuse me, any used car salesman that are listening, I actually did that for a bit, so I empathize. If I didn't have to be that way, then I wanted to get ahead and keep going and keep moving it forward. So long story short, 5 years, I got my first big referral. Then I went from sort of laughing stock in the community, in the industry, to top producer at my old firm. And now I got a new problem, which is here I am trying to do business differently within a environment that's very different culturally from what I'm trying to do in my team. So I'm an Arizona guy. I'm doing this podcast from my cabin up in Flagstaff. In Arizona, if you want to have an epiphany, you go to Sedona because they got the rocks and they got the crystals and all those things. So I'm sitting in Sedona, staring at the mountains early in the morning, and I just have this epiphany, which is, what if I could teach other people to do business the way that I've learned, right? What if I could build a whole firm where all that everyone does is focus on helping people? So that was the genesis of it. That was in 2012. Decided to launch my own firm. Scariest thing I've ever done. January of 2013, just planted my flag and said, we're going to be this kind of firm and we're going to build this on principles and we're going to do the right thing and we're going to love on people. And it has been nothing short of extraordinary. I mean, the fact that my book hit #1 on the Wall Street Journal list is crazy to me, right? It's just nuts. Like there is the world wants this message. They want it. I think I'm not alone. Right? I don't think I'm the only one that feels stuck in a system where you feel like you have to behave in ways to put food on the table that you don't necessarily agree with ethically or morally. And so I've sort of become this interesting sort of almost evangelist for, doing good in an industry. Like the name of my book, as you said, is You Don't Have to Be Ruthless to Win. Everybody said that's way too long of a title, but I wanted the title to capture my message. Even if you never read the book, you get it when you read the title and you're like, oh, well, that's interesting. Because here I am in arguably one of the most cutthroat industries in the world, commercial real estate brokerage, and we're having success and we're winning and we're helping hundreds and thousands of people. And it's all through this lens of, I believe that the more you give, the more you get. And as long as you're willing to play the long game, right, and you're not just focused on instant gratification, that eventually it comes back. And so I'm the very, very humble recipient of a firm where now, like you said, we're one of the largest firms of our kind in the country. We do work all over the country helping, law firms and technology companies and every kind of industrial manufacturing, office, healthcare, all around the country. And with our international partners, if you include them, we have about 800 people around the world. So it's just this amazing sort of growth and community, all driven by one core tenet, which is do good, right, to others, and eventually it'll come back. I think a lot of people focus on the do good part and they forget about the it'll come back to you. And so that's my message is, if I can do it in commercial real estate brokerage of all industries, I believe anybody can do it.
Hallelujah. I think that's great, man. It's very seldom and you are in the minority, which, I would say most successful people that are truly successful have taken the route of doing the long game, playing the long game, right? When you play the long game, you're like actually in it for that long-term purpose. It's the consistency. The consistency creates that credibility and trust, and that's the bedrock of business, right? I recently read a book called The Speed of Trust by Stephen Covey. Have you
Love
read it?
that book.
It's
Love
amazing.
that book.
It's why Warren Buffett can do a deal, $1 billion deal in a month. You know what I mean? Because there's trust all around, and that doesn't come overnight. That doesn't come from this, self-gratifying and quick fix, mentality. So
Right.
I loved it, which is why when I read the book, I was like, all right, let's get you on the podcast and let's talk about that, because that's my philosophy too, right? If we can help, if we can truly help, and if you're an entrepreneur these days, I think people are forgetting about the you can help part, right? Like you start the business so that you can solve a pain point.
Yes.
Either you're making a business money, saving them money, or mitigating risk. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Right? So like, why are we forgetting, in your opinion, why are people so far removed from that basic component to a business?
That's a great question. It's actually a very profound question, because I think within you obviously read my book, because that is the crux question, is at the end of the day, if everybody sort of gets, Armando, that it's a good thing to help people. I don't think there's anybody that would go, what do you mean? Helping people is for losers. I don't know anyone that would say that, right? So if you already fundamentally sort of get that it's good to do good, and you do that in the areas that are most important to you, in your families, in your social environments, whatever, and then you get into business, and all of a sudden it's like, ooh, I got to forget all that. I got to put on my tough suit and I got to go to battle. It's like, well, why? Like why is that? And I think it's because there's a lot of theories. My theory is I don't think there's enough people that are modeling what you just said in a public way. Like if you think about it, it's most people that love on other people are doing it humbly. They're doing it quietly. They're not out just announcing it. I'm the loud voice saying, hey, pay attention to this. I think it's good for everyone. So I don't think there's enough of us that are willing to kind of go out there and speak about why this is important. So that's the first one. The second thing is I think that people feel when it comes to money, people have this odd relationship with it and they feel this level of desperation, right? So it's like, hey, I've got to provide for my family. If I don't, I'm a loser. My kid, you know what I mean? It's like, so people are like, what's the fastest way for me to go from where I'm at to making sure that I can provide? So I don't actually even think it's like I'm sure it is for a lot of people, but I think for most people, it's not like, one, I don't even think it's a choice. I think it's just a system that has been widespread forever, and they just get in like me, and it's sort of like boiling the frog. And over time, you realize you become a shark, and you're like, I don't know how the hell I got here, but I'm here. But I also think there's just a fundamental shift needed in the mindset within business to say, if this is true in the areas that it's most important, it's also true in business. And again, it all comes back to the long game. If you're willing to play the long game, if you're willing to make short-term sacrifices in exchange for long-term gains, it's extraordinary what you can do. Like today. So I'm 49 years old today. We're having, what's that?
Happy birthday.
Thank you, man. We're having unprecedented levels of success. But you could argue that at 49, and well, I mean, we've been having success for a while, but still, a lot of commercial real estate brokers really start crushing it in their mid-30s, right? That's when they're really, because they're playing the shorter game. So for me, my success was delayed later into my life because I spent so much time planting seeds. But now everybody's trying to figure out why we win so much and how they catch up. And it's because while they were busy selling 11111, I was busy planting all these seeds, watering them, nurturing them. And now I don't even have, like, business comes to us, which in commercial real estate, business doesn't come to commercial real estate brokers. You got to go get it, right? So the fact that it comes our way is a testament to this. And so I'm looking forward, assuming the good Lord keeps me on this earth, I'm looking forward to harvesting after having planting and nurturing and watering and tending for so many years. I'm looking forward to continuing to harvest for the next 20 years. And that's going to be, that's going to be where the and you shall receive comes back in a meaningful way. So anyway, to answer the question, it's if people are willing to, if they're willing to sacrifice immediate gains for long-term success. Like I remember one of my coaches said to me, he goes, Jonathan, I know today it feels frustrating because sometimes it would. Here I am helping all these people and, my bank account's still not where I need it to be. And he would say, there's going to be a point where you have so much business coming your way because of all this that you're doing that you don't know what to do with it. And that's exactly where we're at. Like it is wild. It is wild the level of business that just keeps pouring in. And so that's my testament, right? I'm not bragging. I'm not saying, look at me, I'm so cool, right? I'm saying you can do it too. Anybody can do this if they're willing to invest in and love on people. Because at the end of the day, unless we all get replaced by AI and AI makes all the decisions, this is a people, no matter what industry you're in, there's people involved. And those people want to be loved because everybody wants to be loved. And they want somebody who actually has their back. I do a lot of keynote speaking. And so for all of you that are listening, if you're in the room and I'm giving a keynote, make sure you laugh when I say this because you have already heard it. But I'll ask everybody, I'll say, hey, so think in your head about the person that you love and trust the most in the world. And I'll pause and we'll give everybody a second. All right, everybody got it? You got the person in your mind? All right, now raise your hand if that's your commercial real estate broker, right? And everybody just cracks up because it's silly. It's ludicrous. And my follow-up statement is, that's what I aim to be for every one of my clients. And it's not words. It's true. It's like I'm the guy that many people call when they're in their hardest moments, and I'm their commercial real estate broker, right? My team is their commercial. We spend more time helping people on personal issues than we do on doing real estate deals, right? Because that's where the real needs are. So if you develop that relationship, if you have somebody that actually knows that you care, I have clients that will be that as part of their thing will be like, new money comes in, new board seats, and they try to replace us because they have a relationship with someone else. I have clients that'll say, if you do not keep Kaiser as our broker, I will resign. And I'm like, whoa, you don't have to do that. Like, I appreciate the love, but you don't have to do that. They're like, no, I'm not letting, you've always stood for me, I'm standing for you. So there's that, right? There's that intense friendship, loyalty piece. When you're just a vendor, and you just gave a better sales pitch and you under-deliver in performance, that's 99% of the world. And then they wonder why it's so frustrating and have to get up every morning and go do business so difficult. Like, people rave about what we do. Again, not because we're necessarily the most talented people in the world, and I think our people are very talented. It's because we care more, because we want them to win. For us, it's about them, not about us. And for most of the world, they're so focused on me. What is it for me? Hey, by the way, what about me? Let's talk about me. That they forget that really the value opportunity is loving on the person on the other side of that conversation.
I have a phrase. It's called "you're preaching to the preacher," because it feels, like it's what I try to instill in the staff. It's what I try to instill in my relationships with my employees and personal relationships, business relationships, joint venture partners, referral partners, right? Like it is the long game. And when you do think about the long game, like all of the mistakes that happen, right, are opportunities to strengthen that relationship or tear it down, right? Mm-hmm. But when you're playing the long game, you're like, well, I'm gonna come back, admit, I'm not gonna try to make excuses. I'm gonna fix the problem.
Yes.
and then I'm gonna move forward. And I've found that a lot of the friends and even clients to today that we work with, we have gone through like some shit together, but it has like strengthened that relationship because
Yes.
of what happens in those moments. Not necessarily when it's good, right? That's
Yeah.
easy. It's
Sure.
when shit hits the fan that like people are like, what are you gonna do? Right? And that's how they measure your integrity.
Can
That's
I,
how
can
they
I,
measure you as a
I
person.
don't, I don't want to derail that comment. I just want to add one real quick thing to it before you move on, because I think it's critical. Is what I'm going to say is slightly different, but it's the exact same thing you're saying. Like, you find out your real friends when you're in a pinch, right? You find out who's really a partner versus a vendor when things don't go well, right? Like when things don't go the way you plan and people are stressed, how does your partner react? For me, it's like I'm all in on trying to help make sure that they look good, that they're backed up. If I need to take the fall, even if I didn't do anything, I'm happy to do it, right? I care more about them than I care about me. I've had scenarios where I've taken the fall, even though we did nothing wrong, got fired from an account. That person eventually left, went to the next firm, and guess who they hired? Me, right? Because they knew that I had their back, right? So, I think that's a valuable point. I just wanted to hit on that. And I think it's beautiful you said that, because I think that needs to be articulated more. Our favorite thing to do is if someone picks someone else, that's a perfect opportunity for love on them even more. It's like, I don't care if I'm not a friend just to get you to work with me. If you don't want to work with me, it's a free country. Absolutely. I'm not helping you as sort of some weird, creepy, unspoken trade where, like, if I help you and you don't give me business, then you're a dick and I'm going to be pissed. Like, that's ridiculous, right? If you're loving on people, it all comes back. And so that's what I love to focus on, is just love on everybody. And eventually you'll have so many people, like all the people that go, I just had a new client that said, I asked around, we needed a new space. This was in Chicago. I asked around, and 3 people all said your name. I mean, so if 3 independent people are all saying you got to call Kaiser because they're the best, that's pretty compelling. And that's something that I don't know how I help those people. I don't know who those people are. Somewhere in life, somewhere in this watering, nurturing period, I help those people. And they're grateful enough to go, you got to work with JK. Oh, everyone calls me JK. You got to work with JK. He's the best. His team is awesome. So there's a lot to me. Can I slow it down for one more second?
Please.
For me, I think what's missed, and it's back to your other question, is I'm not saying do good for do good's sake. Again, we all kind of already know that. I'm not a minister. I'm saying selfishly do good. Selfishly love people. Selfishly pay it forward. My whole point is to connect this, because that's part of the problem, right? I don't think people connect selflessness with success, just like I didn't as a youngster, right? So my point is, your selflessness is actually selfish. Selflessness is actually self-interested. And people are like, when I say that, for most people, it's like they have a hard time even getting their head around that. Well, what do you mean? Well, what I said, right? If you help enough people, you're planting seeds that are going to come back to you in the future tenfold. I don't believe you can outgive the universe. So every time you give, there's a multiplicity factor, right? Exponential on how it comes back. And it's just the way of the universe. And you could not agree, not like it, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's like a rule of the universe. Water is wet. Gravity is gravity. If you help people, it comes back. And so the reason why, instead of going and doing another commercial real estate deal right now, I'm talking to you and having these conversations, and took the time to write the book and get up on stages, is because I really, really I have a dream. I have a vision of a world where people selflessly help each other regardless of personal gain. because they understand that it's in their own personal best interest to do so. So for me, if I could connect the dots, I think that invokes change, because then youngsters coming up go, what's the most rational way for me to create success for myself? I heard that crazy podcast with, Armando and that JK guy. I'm going to try that, right? Because that resonates with me. If we have hundreds and thousands and then millions of people behaving that way, like, that's real change. And I would argue, and this is a bold statement, but I would argue that I don't know that there's a better thing for change in the entire world than that kind of change, than that kind of people trying. Imagine the good we could do for others. Think about all the things you could do for other people that you don't do. All of us, right? Like, what if we unlocked all the good we could all do and watch all of us flourish? I think that is the biggest game changer opportunity in the world. And the beautiful thing, when I started this company, however many, 13 years ago, whatever, it was like people thought I was a little bit crazy, like, with this message. And now the world is caught up. So I feel like there's this awesome kind of back current, wind is at our back. And so the more of us that continue to lean in, I think this starts to solve some of the biggest challenges that the world has. I'm not saying it'll solve all of them, because the world is big and there's a lot of problems. But I think if we as a business community get this and implement this, I think it unlocks so much value and repairs so many damaged relationships that are created every single day by sort of short-sighted thinking where people burn bridges. I think if people just come at it from love and come at it from service, I think there's no limit to what we as a civilization can accomplish.
And I think you can come back from a burned bridge.
100%.
I don't think, I think a lot of people are like, well, that ship has sailed. That burnt, we burned that bridge. I don't believe that that's to be true. I'll get personal with you, and I brought up this story because I was able to save my marriage here in the last 4 months based on that book of, thanks, that the book, Speed of Trust, right? And what I realized was that I created this environment of distrust within my marriage. And what happened was I grew up as an Army brat. So for me, I moved around every 3 years. So when some shit went down or we got in an argument, I'm like, I'm out of here. I don't need time. I don't have time for this. I'm out. You know what I mean? And I would just like, I'm out. So of course she's going to be hard with me. Of course she's not going to be soft. Of course she's going to be angry because she doesn't understand whether or not I'm going to be around. So she checks out, for a year and a half, 2 years, right? I'm here going, all of these reasons why, I'm the victim, right? And then I read the book and I'm like, holy shit, I am the problem. Like, I'm the problem. And I came to her and I was like, look, I just want to let you know, this ship may have already sailed. Like, you may have already checked out. You know what I mean? But I just want you to know that I am the problem, right? Like, I'm the problem. I have created this mess, right? And I understand that you can't give me your feminine side. I understand why you're always angry at me. I understand all of these things, right? Because when you create this environment of distrust where somebody can't trust you, then you give them no other option, right? And like, she bawled, and it was just like, it was this life-changing event. And since then, like, life is just, I mean, it's not perfect, but like, our relationship is like the best it's ever been, right? And so, if you're out there and you have felt like you've burned a bridge, and you think it's past the point of repairing, I would ask that you go and try to repair it, not to continue a relationship, because it may already be over, but taking responsibility fully and not expecting the other person to also, like, I'm not going to apologize so that you can also apologize, right? Like, for you to take extreme ownership and go, I just want to let you know that this is my fault. And I promise you, when you put all of the blame on you, people are going to go, wait, hold on. You're not all like, it takes two to tango. And you're like, And then you guys get in an argument about them personally taking ownership, right? And so that's just been something for me that I've been on the rooftop shouting about in terms of creating, an environment of trust. If you're an entrepreneur within your organization, maybe you're going off on your employees and they don't feel comfortable coming to you with problems because you're always down their neck. Like that is not creating an environment of trust, and then holding them accountable and things like that. So that's sort of parallel in terms of
100%.
giving back and being helpful. I think it's also being helpful after wrongs have been done to come back and and try to make amends.
100%. I've done so much of that in my life. Where I'll call up someone and I said, hey, at the time I didn't realize it, but upon reflection, I was in the wrong and I just wanted to apologize. If I had it to do over, I'd do it differently. It's amazing what those kind of conversations have. And I acknowledge and admire what you're describing too, right? It takes humility to be able to, instead of looking for the wrong that somebody else did, to care enough about them. To me, that's just, like you said, it's just service. It's like you're caring more about them and their pain than you needing to be right and your ego in the moment. Like that's beautiful, bro. And within Kaiser, I say all the time, I say, if something goes wrong, whose responsibility is it? Everybody goes, yours, right? Because they know that I try to take extreme accountability for everything that happens in the firm. Not that I'm doing it to like feel bad, but if you don't take responsibility for something, then it's somebody else's responsibility, which means you can't change it, which means you're stuck in this situation. If you own it, then you have the power to change it. So I acknowledge and really appreciate your comments because I think they're profound and wise and they fit perfectly into this. And if you engage in this kind of behavior throughout your business life, it's going to become a lot easier for you to do it at home, right? Because it's going to become second nature for you versus trying to bifurcate that. There's no way that it doesn't creep. If you're ruthless out in the world and try to be not ruthless at home, there's no way that there's not a bleeding over. There's no way, right? So kudos to you, my friend.
Thank you. I got a question for you. What do you think about when you're where's the line of holding people accountable, right, and then letting them go? Because you wanna give your staff the benefit of the doubt, but then like at some point it's like, all right, we got to let you go because you're past that point. So how are you navigating that spectrum?
I think that is the greatest challenge / learning lesson that I've had in building my own company, hands down. Number 1, 2, and 3. Because I tend to have a big heart and I love people, so I like to give people like 47. Oh, I know. With the 48th time, it'll be different. That's my nature. And when you're an entrepreneur and you're focused on a mission, a lot of times in the entrepreneurial journey, right, you grow up throughout it, both individually and organizationally. And when you start, it's sort of like everybody's building the airplane as they fly. And then you got to develop systems and processes to make it scalable. So it's through those systems and processes, and this is something that we're literally in real time working with Luis on right now, right? Is like, how do we define excellence? The word that I use for across my organization, that's the guiding light, is excellence. Everything comes back. Is that excellent or not? If it's not excellent, it's not good enough, right? And so for me, if it's not like, hey, Armando, that was a terrible email, fix it. It's very different to say that, but saying the same thing in a more productive way is, this email does not meet our excellence standards. Can we upgrade this to the Kaiser standards? So that's what we're working on. But what I've been finding is, as you do that, a lot of times leaders like you and I have in our head what excellence means, and we don't articulate that as precisely and clearly to the team, so that even areas where I thought I'd done this well has been a little bit of a splash of cold water in the face and going, why am I frustrated with that output? Because I never told them exactly what output I wanted. So I'm the problem. That's crazy. All right, sorry team. I'm gonna define way better what I expect at every point along the process. So, if you put those in place, and then so first is, are you being clear enough with your team on what's expected of them? I wasn't. So I'm now doing that. Once you have the super clarity, then you have to have systems to ensure that you're not just randomly picking on people when you see something, when maybe this is happening throughout the whole organization, but the only way so you have to have accountability built in. And so if you have clarity of expectation, you have accountability, then it becomes easy. It's like, hey, you know what we stand for, you know what we're committed to. If you're not willing to do this, that's no problem, but this isn't the place for you. It becomes a very different kind of conversation. And I did that super wrong, super poorly, many times, and I've already called, I think all of them, but for all of you that I screwed up on that, I'm sorry if you're listening to this, because I really am. Like, part of what I try to be is gentle on myself, Armando, because if your heart's in the right place, like, you're going to make 1,000 mistakes as an entrepreneur. You're going to make 1,000 mistakes. I don't care about mistakes, right? It's like an honest mistake is normal. The problem becomes if you make that same mistake 5 times in a row after clarity and expectations have been set. That's when you start to realize that there's a disconnect between, there's a misalignment. And I think misalignment in organizations is, we had grown so fast, and then the pandemic hit, and all of our projects were put on hold, and the whole world looked like it was going to shut down. And it gave me this much needed time to take a breath, 1, to be freaked out for a second, and then 2, to take a breath and say, let me look at my organization. And I realized that I'd allowed a lot of misalignment to occur. So we did some purging. We purged misaligned people. I also looked at all of our processes and said, hey, just because we did that as a startup, and should we be doing it that way today? Oh man, we've learned a lot. We need to upgrade that. So I went across all my people, went across all my systems. Now we're putting really standard operating procedures and protocols in place for everything. So everything is kind of this continuous Six Sigma, constant improvement mindset. But along the way, it's like as soon as you see something that you need to be doing going forward that you probably should have known before, but you didn't, it's like you just got to be gentle with yourself, right? Because you were doing your best. We're all doing our best. And the people that are screwing up in your organization that you have to let go, look, they're probably doing their best too. So it's not even personal. It's not even like you're a bad person, so you have to leave. No, it's like this is just, this level of accountability and commitment is clearly not aligned with what you see in your life. There's plenty of other places, plenty of other jobs. Like let's fix the glitch.
I love it. Jonathan, I enjoyed it, man. These 40 minutes went by super, super fast. Talk about how we can find you.
Keyser.com, KEYSER.com. One thing I'll offer for all of your listeners is if we can one of the things we'd love to do is show what we're capable of before being hired. So if you have a lease or you have a property, I don't care if you have an existing relationship with another broker, we're happy to do a free confidential, we'll sign an NDA, a free review of your current situation and give you our thoughts, give you our feedback, give you some pointers, benchmark your current lease to market. Like we do a pretty cool analysis for people. So if that would be useful to you, anybody in the country, we're happy to do it. And again, the most important, biggest takeaway is, and also I'll end on this. I want to make sure I give the audience real practical takeaways. I am not suggesting that everybody needs to go crazy like I did and disrupt their entire business model and just start helping everybody in the community. For most people, that's a bridge too far. But what I am suggesting is that if you think about keep your exact schedule, whatever that is, same meetings, same conversations, same coffees, same dinners. In those conversations, Instead of thinking, what am I going to get out of this? What am I going to get out of this? How do I get out of this? How do I get myself out of this? Instead of all that, think, how much value in this interaction can I figure out I can push across the table? Try to come up with 3 things you can do for that person. I'm telling you, there's a magic in 3. So if you leave a meeting and you've identified 3 things you can do for this person, sometimes it's sending them a book, sometimes it's making a connection for them. There's all kinds of things. You're going to be amazed at the speed to trust, right? People are going to be like, wow, that guy really goes above and beyond. And that's going to start. And if you do that there, then do it in the next place, and then do it in the next place. And next thing you know, you're going to see a change in your meetings. You're going to see people, really, really start to appreciate you. And that'll be a game changer for your business.
Hallelujah. Jonathan, so much good value. You guys can check out the book. It's available on Audible as well. I listened to the book. I also got a really nice package in the mail. That really nice way to get that book, man. It was really cool.
Got it, brother.
Love the presentation. All right. Thanks, Jonathan. Y'all visit him. Get that commercial real estate.
Keyser.com. Keyser.com.
It's a commercial real estate agreement, like audit. What do you call it?
Your lease. Simple
The
thing.
lease audit.
Your commercial lease, and we'll do a free review audit for you and give you some really good data points.
Love it. All right, Jonathan, thank you so much for coming, and I'm going to see you soon.
Thanks for having me, brother.
All right. And that was Spaghetti on the Wall, ladies and gentlemen, brought to you by Leduc Entertainment for all of your video production needs, podcasts, organic social, we got you. And keep listening, keep watching. We'll see y'all next week.